You're listening to the Ringer NBA show presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook is the best place to bet on the NBA because not only does FanDuel have all your favorite player props, but now you can even check out stats and recent performance trends right in the app before you make your picks. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to get in on the action. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier, and joining me on the first night of the NBA playoffs, we got playoff Rob Mahoney. We got playoff Big Waz. Guys, we just watched, 10 hours of NBA basketball back to back to back to back? How you feeling, Rob?
Wonderful. I mean, should we be so lucky every day of the year? But at least we have these first 2 weekends. Wall-to-wall basketball. I'm a pig in shit, Justin, I gotta say.
I feel like we usually do the back-to-back nights where you do 4 and then 4, but we're only doing this first night, and I have to feel like I'm feeling spry. I'm ready to get after it.
Yeah, I mean, the game started at 10 a.m. local time over here. Almost reminded me of an NFL Sunday. You just wake up on Saturday or, it's a weekend day, get your breakfast going and just plop yourself on the couch and get ready for a full day of NBA basketball.
Yeah, what's your food technique, Waz? Are you snacked up? Are you like in my case, I have excavated the pantry. I've gotten rid of all the food in my house because I will eat it if it's present. Like what is your sustenance strategy, Waz?
Today, this is slightly embarrassing, but at 11:30, I placed a DoorDash order for a 4-piece Popeyes meal. And so
not an embarrassing thing about that.
Bodied 2 pieces of chicken immediately upon arrival, and then let the other 2 just chill, then reheated it, bodied it about 2.5 hours later. Yeah. So yeah, that was basically my snack, the 4-piece Popeye.
That's beautiful.
That's long-term vision. That's like LeBron pacing himself out throughout the course of entire series. He's not just going to blow everything all at once in the game one, especially this game one that we saw for him tonight. I definitely had multiple versions of caffeine throughout my days. Like I started with the tea, then I had a cold brew, then I had coffee that was in my fridge for like a week that I had left over that I had to go to the reserves. Yeah. I think I had 4 different sources all coming into me at different times.
Are your intestines okay?
No, like not usually. So
all right.
It's always to build back from the deficit. I'm starting at -5. I got to get to 0 in order to survive.
Build back better.
There you go. So I would say we had 4 pretty good games. Even the last game, Lakers-Wolves, was interesting in its own right, even though that was probably the lone blowout of the evening. Even the Bucks kind of climbed back into it in the first game of the series. But we have to start with game number 2 on the docket as we go through all 4 of these. We'll go through top-line takeaways. We'll talk about first impressions on all of these. But Nuggets 112, Clippers 110 in overtime. I was trying to do some long division based on whether or not Russ made more positive plays or more detrimental plays. I think if you carry the one, Rob, I think he ultimately came on top. But what does your math say?
I think absolutely. The last deflection off of James Harden's hand tilted the ledger. Until then, as with Russell Westbrook often, it's anybody's game. His angels or his demons could have the day. But in this case, came up with some huge plays, was dared to come up with huge plays by the Clippers, and absolutely delivered. And, there's kind of a corresponding Chris Dunn effect on the other side where guys, and Ben Simmons sometimes, where those guys are challenged to make plays, but that's what the playoffs are all about. Like, can your Russell Westbrooks deliver? And boy, did he tonight.
And he had to. I thought, especially in the second half, Ty Lue and them decided that they were going to completely tilt their defense in ways that were going to dare Christian Brown and Russell Westbrook to beat them. And in a lot of ways, those guys came up with the plays that ultimately made the difference. And so, yeah, Russ tonight, he repeated his premature layup again, the same one that nearly blew that actually blew the Wolves result from a few weeks ago. That he did that again with the Nuggets up wanting to burn clock and him just airballing a layup. But he made just some incredible plays. Defensively, he was a menace on the offensive glass. Like, they got so many extra possessions because of Russ's effort. He's one of the only guys, I guess, besides Nikola Jokic, who can run a fast break on that team. I don't know if you guys remember that play where Jokic
plotted through,
sprinted on that fast break by himself.
He was 39 minutes into the night at that point. Give the guy a break.
It was crazy. But Russ, I thought he was a net positive, man. Especially when you just consider the stuff when he gets rolling that he's good at. They have no other way of generating that stuff. And that we got a decently good Russell night. It was amazing.
Well, you mentioned that they left him wide open, like that they tilted the defense away from him. I would say it was to the point where it almost felt like the Clippers pulled their goalie and completely left him so wide open that he had just a reservoir of space in front of him, but he made the shot to his credit. I also appreciated when that tip play happened where it went off Harden toward the end there. You could see Russ celebrating, like being really triumphant. And then if you go through the play enough through the review, you see Adelman in the back being like, get back on defense, it's not over yet. It was just such a crazy Russ experience, but we can get into some of the things that happened earlier. It seemed like the Clippers had a huge advantage offensively. I thought this game was going to be over quickly, but it really got pulled into the mud. And you have to give the Nuggets credit because they made time and time again the tip plays, the hustle plays, Brown diving on the floor that the Clippers just couldn't come up with.
They made a ton of those plays. But also, I think if you want to sort of understand what happened in this game, you look at who was dictating the terms. The Nuggets come out in a funky, like 1-2-2 zone, which is all but saying up front, we cannot guard these guys. We do not know how to guard them. And guess what? They just did not guard them for a while. Then when the Nuggets had the ball, the Clippers were switching so much, they were throwing the Nuggets off their game. And they were taking all these threes. The Nuggets are a team that was, I think, 30th in three-point rate this season, was settling for three after three after three. They just did not look like the Denver Nuggets on either side of things. They went to a simpler defense. They upped those effort plays you're talking about, Justin. They were flying around in rotation. They were flying around for loose balls. They're flying around for rebounds. All of a sudden, the intensity gets turned up. All of a sudden, they get their pick and roll game locked in, and they're able to kind of start exploiting some of those mismatches. And then you see the Clippers making changes where, they have to get bigger lineups on the floor now in order to handle those switches, to handle the Jokic-Murray pick and roll. But as a trade-off for that, then the Clippers pick and roll game is clogged up and James Harden can't get to the basket the way he did anymore. And so you could see the Nuggets like wresting control of it. But the only way they were able to do it is because overall, the effort and intensity just was not there in the first quarter. And I think by the end of the second, they finally got there.
Yeah, that first quarter was, I'm not going to lie, pretty disheartening because it's not that the Clippers were scoring. It seemed like they were just walking in for layups. The Nuggets, they basically traded baskets, but the Nuggets were like running their offense, getting like system buckets, but like they were working to generate these shots they happened to be making early. Whereas the Clippers, especially Harden and Zubac, who I thought was excellent.
Both had great games.
Zubac came in. Yeah, Harden, to me, there was at times where he felt like the best player on the floor, which I haven't felt that way about James Harden in a playoff game in probably 5 years, if I'm being honest. And so, yeah, the lack of resistance, the lack of, making the Clippers feel them was so tangible and obvious. And then, they came out of that timeout after going down 15, and the intensity and physicality just ratcheted up. They ended up cutting it down to something like 5 or something before halftime, and it was like, okay, we have a game on our hands.
I mean, even Jeff Van Gundy was getting in on the intensity, just ripping that ball away from Jokic. Good. I think the trainer was even involved in that one. But yeah, I think you're right. It was so simple for the Clippers early on. It was like just a dump pass into Zubac, cut from the backside, and they got it over and over and over again. But it felt like once that gunked up, once the Nuggets switched things around in order to account for that, it almost felt like the Clippers froze to a certain extent, and it almost felt like their lack of dynamic play offensively started to come to bear, where it's like there was no route to easy buckets. And the one thing that the Nuggets do well is that they have so much size that they can crowd around the basket and force you into those push shots, into a lot of floaters, and it just wasn't falling for Harden. Didn't feel like a lot of the pushes from Zubac were even going in. And so you were looking around, and that's typically where you would want Kawhi to save you. And Kawhi was decent in this game, but he just didn't have the pop. He was okay. I think overall he made a couple buckets, but overall I thought they needed him to be supernova and to take over as he has throughout this second half, and he just wasn't there, and they didn't really know where else to go to.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty anonymous game from Kawhi. And if anything, his biggest play of the night was the play where he absolutely botched that ISO attempt against Jamal Murray and the ball went off his hip out of bounds, where Jeff Van Gundy seized it and refused to give it up. All due respect to Jeff Van Gundy. I think they just needed more from him. Like, they got what they needed from Harden ultimately, which was big-time shot making, great playmaking as usual. The floater game was on point. The step backs were largely on point. Yeah, in the later stages of the game, I think it was a little more spotty, but he also hit some huge runners down the stretch. So I don't want to take those away from him. And Zoo was cleaning up everything inside. Like, it was a huge part of their second chance offense early in the game. And then Kawhi, it's like, sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. Sometimes he has the mismatches, but he's not quite delivering. I just didn't think it was a like Kawhi Leonard superstar kind of performance. And they maybe they didn't need that, but they needed clearly 2 more baskets from him than he was able to give.
Yeah, I think even in the best of times, though, it's not as if Kawhi is like playing within the flow of some offense. He's getting the ball and he's getting to his spot. And, you know, when he's at the top of his game, there's literally nothing anybody could do about it.
Yeah,
like, he's
that is true.
Muscling people. He's muscling his way into 16 feet from the basket, creating space, and just canning mid-range after mid-range. I thought what the Nuggets did a good job of against Kawhi is when he did try to turn the corner, sending that late help, where that's Kawhi's, like, the glaring weakness of his game is his sort of playmaking or passing or seeing the floor, you know, when extra defensive help comes his way. I thought they did a great job of that on Kawhi. But again, their best offense was James Harden and Zubac in the pick and roll.
Definitely.
It seemed unstoppable at times, and Harden had to step back at times. He's finally convinced himself that he's allowed to take spot-up jump shots, which is nice. Also, the floater game was just it was incredible. Like, I don't remember the last time James Harden seemed this dominant, where he was dictating terms of the game. There was a couple of times in OT where it's like, you know, he's trying to get Jamal Murray on a switch, and so like the offense takes like 14 minutes into like, all right, set the screen for him. And then he comes set the screen. And finally I got Murray or whatever. But Harden was incredible.
Yeah.
See, that's where I would like to see guys other than Leonard get involved. I agree that Leonard wasn't just nails in this game. I thought he was ultimately fine. But like, where is Norm Powell in order to provide that electricity? Where is Bogdan Bogdanovic, who got brought in specifically for that? It just seemed like they were defaulting to a lot of the olds, including Nick Batum, who only compounds the issue that you're a little just creaky getting into things. And that's actually where you don't want to be with Denver, because then it becomes a game of execution, and Jokic is probably going to win that battle 10 times out of 10.
I didn't really have a problem with the Batum minutes. I mean, he
made some big threes.
No, I'm not saying that he was bad. I'm just saying that, like, you weren't getting the athletic pop that ultimately the Nuggets got from a guy like Russ. Like, the surge jolting through this game toward the end was Russ.
I was not expecting a big bench scoring advantage for the Denver Nuggets. Like, against a pretty deep Clippers team. And that is because, as you said, Bogey was not just MIA, but might be unplayable in this series. It's become very clear
they attacked him relentlessly.
Everybody, it was just like whoever has the ball and wherever Bogey is on the floor, you're going directly at that guy. Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons, although now braided up. So congratulations to him, I guess. And other than that, it really was just Batum. And I thought Derek Jones Jr. gave them pop defensively, but it's very limited on offense. And I think part of why ultimately they had to move away from the pick and roll game down the stretch was Derek Jones Jr.'s defender was clogging things up. And, you know, taking away making Harden settle for some of those floaters versus getting all the way to the rim, taking away some of the like Godzilla versus Tokyo roles that Zubac had during like the bulk of this game. Like, they were just able to get bodies in the way in a way that really threw the Clippers off their game.
Yeah, part of why I think the bench advantage showed up for the Nuggets is because they didn't really play a bench. It was Russell Westbrook, it was some Peyton Watson, and then like a sprinkling of Jaden Pickett. And so that was pretty much
5 minutes.
And that included benching Michael Porter Jr. down the stretch in a game.
We should talk about that.
Talk about awful. He was awful in every facet of the game, bro.
And they asked Jokic about this after the game, about like, you know, why wasn't he engaged, yada, yada. And Jokic's quote is, if you're not going to be engaged right now, then you're not supposed to be playing this sport.
He's not wrong. Like,
Can't disagree.
I mean, there's a couple things happening. One, basically every other starter had to play 45 plus minutes as a result of this rotation like problem fundamentally, and the fact that Michael Porter wasn't able to give you more than 26 minutes period, but also those 26 minutes had zero impact and zero force to them whatsoever. That's a huge issue because not every Russ night is going to be like this. You know, as we're kind of circling around the fundamental give and take of the Russell Westbrook experience, every game that Russ plays, and he's going to have to play a lot for this team because they don't have alternatives, becomes about Russell Westbrook, becomes about his limitations, becomes about his give and take. Like, it's the only way he can be on the floor is either the Nuggets are having to make it about him or the Clippers are targeting him or exploiting him or challenging him to make plays. And it worked great for the Nuggets here. Like, they were able to ride that experience to a really important win, but it might not in game 2. It might not for the rest of the series. We're just going to have to see how it goes with him.
Here's the thing about Porter Jr. 2023 in the playoffs, he definitely finally, for the first time in his career, consistently brought it on defense. And he's not the quickest footed guy, but he is legitimately like 6'10", 6'11". Yeah. And when he plays his size, he can be a defensive asset. When, you know, Jokic is essentially meeting Harden at the level on the pick and roll, they're dumping it off to Zub at the foul line extended. That guy on the back line has to be Michael Porter Jr. He has to be some level of resistance in order for everybody to scramble from behind where Zubac catches it. But instead, it was just like, it was a Sunday run at the Y for this kid today. And I'm glad they benched his ass because, quite frankly, man, what Russ and also Aaron Gordon had
monster fucking game.
Monster game. What this dude, first of all, killing people on the offensive glass as well. Whenever like they tried to put some little guy on him, he was like, I am attacking you to the basket. think he got to the line 10 times today. Made a huge 3-pointer. No hesitation.
A brawl before the game? Like, what happened to his face?
My home group chat was swearing like Pickett or somebody punched him in the face at practice. But
wow.
I'm not spreading that rumor. But I'm just like, I don't know.
You're not spreading it, yeah.
Not spreading it, But he was a junkyard dog today, man. And he without his relentlessness on both sides, he was a lot of the times providing the resistance when we're like, oh, Kawhi didn't have his best game. That's Aaron Gordon's work.
Very
right
true.
There, man. I can't say enough about him. Like, you compare and contrast, especially the pedigree and the sort of reputation of Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon and what those guys contributed, you know what I mean, today, it's night and day, man.
What I like about the playoffs, especially in game ones, is that you really do kind of cut through the noise of everything that we've been hearing leading up to the playoffs, at the very least, if not the entire regular season. And one of the main discourses of the Booth v. Malone thing was like, oh, you're playing Russ too much instead of the young guys.
No.
Like, why aren't you doing it? And I think what we found out in this game is that maybe Malone was at the very least right in the now. And that, like, maybe Porter Jr. not as, like, impactful as Russ when he's fully engaged in this. Whoa. And also that a lot of the young guys, maybe they don't deserve minutes right now.
Yeah, I don't even know that MPJ was a part of that debate per se, although clearly he can be when he plays to this level. And I think there's a Michael Porter versus Russ part of this conversation. There's also do the Nuggets need shooting or do they need cutting right now part of this conversation? And Russ's cutting and his offensive rebounding, like you zeroed in on, that stuff was huge. And MPJ is not usually giving you that stuff. He's had great rebounding moments in series.
He doesn't like to get his nose dirty. That's not his lane.
It's really not. And yeah, 0 Julian Strawther minutes, certainly notable. The Jalen Pickett minutes did not go well, and that kills me to say because I actually do kind of think there's something.
Him too.
I don't know that he's playoff ready yet, but I like his skill set and I like some things about him. I also think if you're gonna play him, you do not play him with Russell Westbrook. You play him with Jamal Murray and/or Nikola Jokic and try to steal minutes that way. But David Adelman, I got to say, for being a week and a half on the job, benching one of your highest paid players to play Russell Westbrook in his place and cashing in on that bet, that's a ballsy coaching move.
He inherited stones from his father, brother. That's what it is.
Did.
I think that's one of two things. That means Adelman probably not coming back, or that Michael Porter Jr. probably not coming back would be my guess.
It's possible.
But Waz, if you're the Clippers right now, if you're Ty Lue just sitting in the hot tub with the assistant coaches going over this game, are you saying like, damn, we let one slip away in Denver, this one's going to hurt us because this is going to be a back and forth series? Or are you like, they played motherfuckers 45 minutes, basically all 5 of their main guys, and that's going to catch up to them down the road?
Do we think that Ty Lue and his staff are chilling in the hot tub post game?
Why not?
I mean, I have no argument against it.
I can see it.
Trying to get the logistics down.
Do you want to do that after
rewinding the tape?
I love this tradition for us. Group chat hot tubbing post pod. Let's fucking go.
Does Denver have a Ritz-Carlton? I'm sure there's got to be a suite with a hot tub in it. If I'm the Clipper, and Ty Lue, I'm not gonna lie, he's one of my favorite coaches. He just exudes such a confidence. Like some people would say it's hubris. Like he was like, look, man, this game 1. I'm not playing Zoob 40 minutes, bro. You know, Jokic came back and he was kind of abusing that non-big lineup. You can't go non-big against Jokic. I'm sorry. But like...
Well, then Zoo's going to have to play 40-plus minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was that bad against Gordon at the 5 minutes, but as soon as like Jokic comes in, like you can get away with a couple minutes. Yeah.
You have to. I think you have to match Zoob's minutes with Jokic's.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of did. He played 39.
Do.
Yeah,
but Jokic played 46.
That's what you know what I mean. Like,
well, math says that there were 7 unaccounted for. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I guess we have to drill down on the plus minus of that.
I think Ty Lue has to like what they were getting out of the Harden pick and roll.
Yep.
I think he has to like the amount that Zoob will make Jokic work in the one-on-one. And look, bruh, Christian Brown and Westbrook, y'all gotta beat me. I still like my odds if I'm Ty Lue there. Now, Jamal Murray missed a bunch of good plum looks, bro, in the mid-range, couple of threes. Some of these were barely freaking close, just clanging off the back iron. And I would expect him to make some more plays. He made some big threes in the 4th, but throughout the course of that game, he was looking bad. Some bad turnovers. I thought Kawhi guarding him down the edge of the game, that felt like a sort of like a trump card almost. Like, yeah, bro, we're gonna put the freaking monster on you. And I think it did have
that one quick. Yeah,
a positive effect. Exactly. I think Ty Lue still feels like he has advantages to press, but you know the Nuggets are only going to gain in confidence from this win.
The Clippers were right there. Yeah, I think if they clean up a couple of the rotation things, Zoo and otherwise, I think either the Ben Simmons or Bogey minutes probably need to go, if not be at least minimized to whatever extent you can minimize them.
So who's coming in when Zoop sits?
I would just play Batum at the 5.
Batum?
Yeah. It's not ideal, but it's better than playing Ben Simmons and they just zone up the floor. Like, no one has to guard him. It's a huge problem.
I thought the Simmons minutes were passable. I don't know. It didn't strike me as some like total chasm in terms of.
I agree.
He just caught the ball at the free throw line, and there's no one within 8 feet of him, and he's just pivoting around, looking who to pass to. Like, what are you accomplishing in those minutes?
If you start from the baseline of any other backup center in the NBA who could just like get you by like playing defense, then he's a totally passable NBA player.
If you start from the baseline of the last 3 games against Atlanta in 2021, then this was completely fine.
I guess so. But yeah, getting Norm Powell more activated, as you said, Justin. Yeah. They got to be able to get him more in the flow. I think they have to figure out how to make a more sustainable pick and roll attack that isn't going to be mucked up to this degree. And this has been, to be fair, a Clippers struggle for the vast majority of the season. Like it got kind of papered over when Kawhi got back, and they've been good enough offensively because of other factors. But they hit the skids pretty bad even in their better games. Like there'll be a 3rd quarter stretch where they just go scoreless for 4 straight minutes, or at least can't get field goals to go. It's just part of the Clippers experience.
All right, let's flip to the other end of LA here. Actually,
can we say one more thing? Nikola Jokic had 29, 12, and 9 in this game. We literally didn't even mention it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what he does.
I'm just saying, it's like it's taken as a fact of life that's who he's going to be.
That's what
he's a foundation of every conversation we're going to have about these series.
I just want to note it for the record.
Okay. So Lakers Wolves, a game that wasn't much of a game for about 3/4 there. I'll be honest, I was pretty stunned by this outcome. We all picked the Lakers to win this series. I think we all had inklings that the Wolves might have some advantages that they could press on. I didn't expect them to press on every single one of them to the point where they pretty much blew the Lakers off the court before halftime. What stands out to you about this one, Was?
The Lakers are just not an obviously better team than these guys. They're more than their equal. And, I think it bears remembering that. Remember when they made the Luka trade, everybody was like, yo, this is not a trade for this year. Right. They're probably kind of worse because they're way less well-balanced now after the Luka deal. And now somehow we've psyched ourselves into thinking like the Lakers are world beaters. I just think they did not execute at a high level. Yeah. Just like conceding switches with Luka Doncic. Like no, go ahead. Yes, let's switch Luka onto Anthony freaking Edwards, who does like 3 crossovers and dudes are falling on the freaking floor, like literally. And that was the Lakers' response to just simple pick and rolls 40 feet from the basket. I couldn't understand that. But I don't know, man. The way Ant is like getting the ball out of his hands on these drives or when they send 2 really early up top above the 3-point line, he looks different in terms of how he's seeing the floor right now. And then, let me just tick off some of these 3-point shooting that the Lakers got happened to them today. Yeah. Julius Randle, famous playoff flop in terms of shooting threes specifically, any kind of jump shot, 4 for 6 from 3. Jaden McDaniels, 3 for 3 from 3. Mike Conley, 2 for 3. Ant Edwards, 4 for 9. Naz Reid, 6 for 9 from 3. Like he's Dirk Nowitzki, guys. Like
I don't know that Dirk Nowitzki had many 6 of 9 from 3 games, dude. If any.
And so, like you get that kind of shoot. If the Wolves are going to shoot like this, pack them up. The Lakers are done. But you have to feel more confident that like Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels are not going to be the freaking Splash Brothers going forward.
But what if they are?
This series is done.
Yeah,
pack them up.
If the shooting cashes like this, it's just a monumental problem for the Lakers. I don't think it will every time out. I think some of these guys are fluky enough. Nas is a great, consistent 3-point shooter. Jaden McDaniels is certainly going to ebb and flow a bit, among others. I think the bigger problem, as you alluded to, is the playmaking and the crispness of Ant's decision making. I don't know that. I haven't looked this up. I'm gonna guess we have not seen a 9-assist, 1 turnover game from Anthony Edwards.
That's insane.
Maybe ever. Given the level of pressure that he was getting under these circumstances from a legit quality playoff caliber opponent. Just a tremendous game from Ant. I mean, he had it in full control basically after the first quarter. I thought the first quarter, it was the Lakers playmaking and overall their like control of the game, in particular Luka, that was driving everything that was happening. From that point on, it was athleticism and length. And guess which of these teams has dramatically more than the other? It's your Minnesota Timberwolves led by Anthony Edwards, who has both in spades.
I think when they made the Karl Anthony Towns trade, they probably were envisioning a performance like this, where it's like, oh yeah, you're going to load up on Ant? Well, we're going to shoot fucking 33s. Like have fun with that. Or 53s. And they just were bombing away the entire time. The ball movement was pinging, and I think Julius Randle deserves a lot of credit for that. Mm-hmm. Now, by the end of the game, he was starting to spin out. I think he had 7 turnovers. He was like nailing LeBron in the face. He got a technical. But overall, this is about what you want from Randle, where it's just like he's defaulting more to pass Julius rather than score first Julius. You basically have played an 8-man rotation most of the season until you had to like literally play other players because it wasn't working out. You had to work in a Clark. You actually had to play your talented rookies that you traded draft picks for, but you have the muscle memory of this 8-man rotation. So it's not like you have to really change anything about that. And then you're just hoping to get more from all these other guys that still have more in them. Jaden McDaniels being the prime candidate of that. He played probably the best game I've ever seen him play. Like he has been good for a good stretch now, but he was just confident and like just ripping things away from them on the boards and just scoring in a way that I haven't seen him probably ever.
This was a great sort of like culmination game for Jaden McDaniels. We've seen him have good shooting games before, and we know what that alone can do if Ant's already drawing so much attention. I think over the back part of the season, he was so aggressive, getting into the paint and sort of hitting little runners, leveraging the fact that he is bigger than almost every player who ends up guarding him because teams don't take him seriously. And the Wolves clearly identified that as this is a pressure point that can work for us, right? Like we need to get Jaden the ball. He needs to get it inside where he actually is big and use it in a way that if you flash across the court, Rui Hachimura is being guarded by basically every small guy that the Timberwolves have. And he's mostly shooting threes. And we'll see if that's kind of a lever that the Lakers end up pulling in future games. Are we going to post Rui more? Are we going to use him more in duck-in situations? Like those are the kinds of matchups you have to exploit to win a series like this. And for the record, I still think this is going to be a long series. I still think this is going to be more competitive once the shooting equalizes a little bit. I don't think the Lakers defense is always going to look this bad, but the Wolves are here. And this is an incredible announcement in terms of their entrance to the series.
I'm a little worried, though, if I'm the Lakers, if only because I think the one thing that we targeted going into this was the rim protection and that you had to basically build it in the aggregate. Well, they sold out trying to stop Ant, who, despite having a pretty awesome performance, he went out in that, third quarter with the hamstring or the
calf.
He had a calf thing, but he came back, but he wasn't really meteoric scoring, so you still have to account for that. Like when he's when he's powering through some of these like 3-man fronts that he's going through. But like I don't know how they ever changed the calculus because the Wolves shot over their heads, but like Dante DiVincenzo didn't shoot that well. Like he's gonna have a game like that. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he could shoot like that. So I think it's like repeatable in a way that if I'm the Lakers, like Luka and LeBron and Reeves, they're gonna have so much juice to overwhelm. But like the Wolves have the balance of defense offense that I think is gonna be scary for anyone.
For sure. Yeah, they're like offensive-minded lineups are still really good defensive lineups, just by the nature of their personnel, just by who they're going to throw out there. And so this is going to be a lot for the Lakers to handle. And I think in particular, Jackson Hayes just kind of like got wiped off the floor because they needed to score so many points to try to make up for the deficit once it built. Very quietly, the Dorian Finney-Smith minutes did not go very well. And this does happen with Dorian. It hasn't happened lately during his Lakers tenure because he's been kind of like a plus-minus monster for them. But he'll have games where he just isn't really shooting well and thus isn't an offensive threat. And he isn't the best finisher, especially when contested around the basket. And if Jackson Hayes isn't that playable and Dorian Finney-Smith isn't that good, your list of live bodies is dwindling quickly if you're the Lakers.
I'm not that worried about the Lakers offense. I think they'll be fine in a half court. Like they'll find ways to generate good looks consistently, but they do not have an Anthony Edwards matchup. They just don't. Because like,
do you know anyone who does?
Boston,
I guess. Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. Those might be the only answers. To be clear.
Teams in the world.
Yeah, like the way he feels so confident, man. Even they're targeting Luka, but it's like LeBron, you can't stick with me. I think even the LeBron of the bubble championship was just a way more athletic defensive player in terms of doing defensive slides, right? Like every now and again he could load up and get a nice chase down block.
He got one tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the quick twitch stuff that you need and anticipation that you need in order to stay in front of Ant with any level of credibility, like LeBron don't got that.
He did have the one possession tonight where he switched on Ant and did the happy feet, let me show you I am engaged. It's like the LeBron equivalent of slapping the floor is basically what happened.
Well, he gets the choppy feet,
We're glad that he did because otherwise I might not have remembered that he played in this game. This was one of the quietest LeBron playoff games I've seen in a very long time.
Very true. And I would expect that to change. I don't know what was going on today. He was not in the rhythm of this game. He was not making much of a mark on it.
LeBron, man, he's at the point where he has to matchup hunt. He's not going to just smoke Naz Reid off the dribble on a switch. He's just not. He's going to take the Akron step back and make it 1 out of every 4 times. Like he's got to find the smaller guys and beat them up. Okay? That's how he's going to make an impact on this series. He hasn't really been a one-on-one kind of killer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I would say since probably 2020, to be honest.
I also thought low-key Julius Randle did a pretty good job one-on-one in his matchups with LeBron.
He needs to stop trying to challenge LeBron with his one-on-one scoring.
He's
LeBron's just as strong as you. You can't do your bully ball shit with him.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron has to matchup hunt. He has to try to get the Nickeil Alexander-Walkers, the Mike Conleys. He's got to target those guys. DiVincenzo. Those is who he got to target because I don't think he's just going to be able to because usually when you try to guard LeBron on a pick and roll conventionally, like that shit just doesn't work. Teams have figured it out years ago. Like, we just got to switch the big onto him. He's not as quick as he used to be. Yeah. He has to be stronger than the guy that he's going up against to score efficiently. And he just wasn't, hunting those matchups today.
Thought this was also Austin Reeves, you're a future all-star. Let's see it, man.
We might yet, but we haven't yet.
The most improved player in the world. Let's see this because he looked pretty pedestrian.
Well, some of that is the function of who is starting the possessions, right? And if you're going against a defense that's switching as much as Minnesota is switching right now, and Luka has the ball in his hands, Luka's going to work that mismatch game like we're telling LeBron that he should with some of the smaller defenders. And you see it in the box score exactly what happened. 37 points for Luka Doncic, did incredible heavy lifting in the first quarter in particular. 1 assist. Like, this is what the switching gets you, is you're going to leave Rudy Gobert on an island sometimes, and he's going to get in foul trouble. You're going to hang Naz Reid out to dry once and again, but you're taking away some of these spot threes for other guys. You're taking away the momentum that guys like Austin Reeves feed off of. Like, he's such a second side attacker, and if there's no second side to exploit, where is Austin Reeves' production going to come from? We're going to have to find that out over the course of this series.
Quote Austin Reeves, I think they just physically beat us from the get-go. Yeah, pretty much.
Certainly did.
Anything else from this game you guys have?
I got nothing. Looking forward to game 2, though.
Absolutely.
Okay. Also, we got a playoff series because the home team lost the game.
It has begun.
The Ringer NBA show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are finally here, and there's no better way to be a part of the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. After another competitive season, the top teams are ready to battle their way through the playoff bracket in hopes of taking home the championship. And if you think you know how it's all going to go down, then make those predictions pay off with FanDuel and NBA profit boosts. Simply make your bet, activate your boost, and go for even bigger winnings. So we're looking at Sunday's game 1 slates. A lot of big lines out there. So I'm going to go to Warriors at Rockets. Game 1 in Houston. It's basically a pick 'em. It's +1 for the Warriors. I kind of like the Rockets just to win game 1. I don't know. The Warriors had to play the extra games. A bit older. I wonder if they're going to be shocked by the defensive attention of Amen Thompson and some of the dogs that they have out there in Houston. Just to maybe recalibrate it. I kind of still like the Warriors in this series. But give me the home team in game 1, at least to start with, and then we'll go from there. And just don't be a spectator this postseason. Overall, head to FanDuel.com/RingerNBA to download America's #1 sportsbook and make every moment more. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. All right, Knicks Pistons. This one was very much a telltale sign of the Pistons being in their first playoff series, where it almost felt like they used up all their nervous energy in the first half, and then everything just came crumbling down, like all the young mistakes. I think Jalen Duren had, I counted at least 2 to 3, 3-second violations. I don't know what the fuck was going on there.
He was really bad.
The Knicks went on a 21 to nothing run
in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
that's
brutal.
Bad.
Yeah.
Producer Zay said it, at the top of the call. He's like, it's a young team. What are you going to do? They're going to run up against a wall in the playoffs. Like, for 3 quarters, they look like, hey, we're the Knicks' equal, But let's face it, their offense isn't that dynamic. And OG Anunoby looked like an all-world defender against Cade Cunningham. Like, he was crowding him. He was making all of his stuff tough. The only time Cade had some good possessions was when OG got switched off of him. He fish filleted Mikal Bridges because, of course, this guy went from all-NBA candidate to literally paper mache at this point. They're going to have to figure out ways to free him up. Get OG Anunoby the hell up off of me if that guy's going to be able to be the engine for the offense. But, yeah, it just felt like they hit a young team wall in that fourth quarter. And, of course, the Knicks had the home crowd and all of that. But I'm not. I don't think they're like this is indicative of some series that they're just going to get blown out of the water. But that fourth quarter was tough to watch from them.
Just full deer in the headlights stuff. And way too casual and like in terms of their execution. And this is the problem with what you're saying, was as far as like they got to free up Cade from OG. And that was a big change from the regular season where Cade just destroyed Mikal Bridges in those matchups. You put OG on him. Now, when they were able to get Cade free, they were prying him loose. They had to run this preliminary action to screen for Cade off ball to get OG off him. Cade gets the ball with 14 seconds on the shot clock. Cade is a really methodical player on his own. He's kind of taking his time, waiting for the next screen, doing his thing. All of a sudden, there's 3 seconds on the shot clock, and like Malik Beasley's tossing up like a one-armed, like shot put three-pointer because the possession didn't go anywhere. And so you just have to execute with more purpose than these guys did. I just don't think they knew the urgency of playoff basketball. Like they were not quite familiar with the brief as of yet. And so now that they've seen it, we'll see how they respond to it. We'll see kind of who's ready for this stuff and who isn't. Jalen Duren, who's 21 years old, just might not be ready for this yet. And that's okay. Like that's the learning curve of this stuff. And you have to go through your paces. You have to have your Jared Allen, the lights were pretty bright sort of moment. Sometimes that's just what it is. I know.
Perfect podcast guest.
You come up in the world. But like I thought Beef Stew was just a much more effective big. And I thought Jalen Duren, this is a tough matchup for him to begin with. They already have to basically have him guarding Josh Hart so that, Tobias Harris can guard Towns. Like they're already trying to navigate around him. And there are a few too many guys like that on the Pistons right now who are just like too young to know what to do implicitly. And so you have to coach them up to do every single thing.
Are you guys Jalen Duren guys?
I like the energy. I just don't know that it's always focused in a constructive way.
Talent, the speed at the position, strong as hell.
Clearly.
Has some like level of ball skills, but basketball IQ, it's tough.
I almost feel like he accidentally put on the wrong jersey one day. Like he's actually a football rush end and that he just somehow got mixed up.
I mean, he'd be a phenomenal volleyball player. We got to get him on the Olympic volleyball team. He'd be tremendous up there.
He's a weird combination where he's like such a supreme athlete, but not in a way that totally translates to basketball. Like he just moves with like a weird gait and he's just strong as a goddamn bull, but like almost too strong. He looks like he could just like spot for Schwarzenegger in some role or something like that. He's just like almost too muscle bound where it's like you need more functional athleticism to get around. But to put that on top of some of like the dunderheaded mistakes that he's typical to make, he always rubs me the wrong way. But I will say this about the Pistons. For most of the game, or at least the first half going into the third quarter, they managed to drag them into the mud, the Knicks, in a way that I think will behoove them down the road, because there was a real like Sixers Knicks energy from last season to this game, and that's not where the Knicks want to be, particularly because Jalen Brunson, I noticed a lot of hobbling post making a bucket, or he would make a dynamic move and all of a sudden he would not pull up lame, but just be a little bit slower coming out of there.
Yeah.
He ultimately ended up with an awesome performance. He had 34 points in this game, so you can't ask more for him. But that's something I'm tracking here because he never really had enough time post injury coming back to really get right. It just doesn't seem like he's there yet.
I mean, it just looked like he jammed that foot a couple of times in this game off of just like weird kind of missteps. And he's already someone who takes a lot of falls to begin with, but a gutsy ass performance. I would say Brunson early in this game, his normal shots, his shots were not going. He wasn't getting the calls that he wanted. He's got Asar Thompson all over him, which God bless anyone who's trying. And I thought the way he put it together in the second half was damn heroic in the way that we expect Jalen Brunson to be damn heroic. And I think your point stands, Justin, as far as the comparison to that Sixers series. That is what it felt like. Ugly, chaotic, and then here's Jalen Brunson to save the day. Like it really played out exactly that way.
Second half was definitely some never underestimate the heart of a champion kind of stuff. And in the first half, just to bring it back to Anunoby, he was the one carrying the offense.
Yeah.
Like not only just guarding the hell out of Cade, but like he was the Knicks half-court offense, man. Splashing jump shots, getting to the cup. He was great in that first half. So hats off to Anunoby. And, I would expect Brunson, man, he's smart enough to like know where the spots are coming from. He did have a lot of his foul drawing behavior that was just straight up not rewarded, especially in the first half. But, like Justin said, he eventually came around and ended up, picking up the offensive burden. I thought Bridges had I think there's something nice about what he provides with that mid-range game.
Definitely.
Where it's like, it feels like, all right, when we're not generating some fantastic look, we can have this guy come off of a drag screen and just curl into a beautiful mid-range jump shot. And he had a few of those this game that I think like sort of serves as a pressure release valve almost for the Knicks offense at times. So it was a nice, well-balanced performance from the Knicks, but the Pistons looked their age.
Well, if the Pistons had a pressure release, it would be our friend Tobias Harris, who balled out this game.
Clyde Frazier, because I was listening to the Knicks broadcast.
Yeah.
Clyde Frazier could not believe his lion eyes, boy.
Well, he should have been locked in on Pistons basketball this season, because Tobias Harris has played well for the Pistons all year. But in these moments, as we've been talking about, with such a young team and an inexperienced team overall, just a lot of guys who either have not been here or have not been here in the roles they're now asked to play, Tobias Harris is the steady hand by comparison, and I thought was just their most poised and maybe honestly their best player in this game. Cade had such like a weird up and down, inefficient sort of night. His role is very different than what Tobias Harris is asked to do. But Tobias carrying the Pistons in the minutes without Cade, that was a really positive development and overall like a part of a great night for him overall.
If it wasn't Tobias, it might have been Malik Beasley, who, not on top of just like hitting every goddamn three he's taking these days, is now kind of like the emotional ballast of the sixth best team in the Eastern Conference all of a sudden.
But if your emotional ballast is shimmying, like, don't you want your ballast to be solid and sturdy?
He's naturally off balance. You're right.
I'm just saying.
I just can't stop from marveling. And I know we've been watching the Pistons for at least half a year at this point. All of us have been watching for full season, but they caught on at midpoint of this season that like the core of this team includes Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, and Dennis Schroeder, who if you had told me that was like a team's pickup over the course of like an offseason and a trade deadline, I'd be like, oh, the Nets had to reach the salary floor. Like these are guys that just trade teams like every 2 to 3 years. They're all over the place. And yet this is the guts of one of the best teams in the East. Like I'll never get over that.
It's been remarkable the way that they've just kind of filled out the rotation. And again, those are guys who have particular skill sets that matter and at certain stakes of play. What Tobias can't do is a problem, right? If you're the Sixers trying to contend, Tobias's limitations are more of an issue. In this context, where you just need him to be a fill-in-the-gaps creator, where you need his turnaround mid-range game and not just to put him in the corner, all of a sudden he becomes a dramatically more important and more valuable player. And I think you see versions of that with all those guys, right? With Beasley coming off the bench being like a pure sharpshooter and being a movement shooter in a way that, say, he wasn't in Milwaukee, where he was kind of standing still waiting for the kick out from Giannis, is such an important thing. And Dennis Schroeder overall, I think, has been like just really, really good for this team. We actually had an email from Wes who was asking us about why teams in the NBA continuously undervalue players like Dennis Schroeder. I think it's a fair question. I think if anything, there's sort of a market quirk for the like low end starting point guard, high end reserve point guard, where it's like, do we really want to spend our money there when we already have these stars, when we already have point guards? But someone like Schroeder, who's a backup point guard who can play with Cade Cunningham, that's all of a sudden a very valuable thing. And frankly, on their side too, Campaign showing up in the campaign game of the early stages of the playoffs and kind of providing a similar lift.
There's just not a lot of guards who will play like solid defense and actually have things that they're going to contribute offensively, both on the ball and off it. Schroeder's not anybody's idea of a sharpshooter, but you can't leave him alone when he's out there. Like, he will burn you. And, you know, he's a credible on-ball defender. Like, that's just not as common a skill as you would think. Like, think about someone like Gabe Vincent, who's considered the Lakers like sort of, you know, head of the snake, pit bull kind of guy on the ball. He's nowhere near as good on offense as Dennis Schroeder.
Well, that pit bull got pacified too. They just like threw a stake to the side and he went and chased it. It didn't work out tonight.
I think with Schroeder and also players of this player type, I think there's a pretty stark difference between the on-paper version and the practical implications of them. Whereas like Schroeder, the shot comes and goes. And for a while, it was down pretty bad. And also, it took him a while to kind of round into form defensively to be the type of guy he was on the second time around with the Lakers. And so what you're really asking, like looking for with him is basically a score first guard who typically is pretty strong headed and could be a little bit mercurial if he's not getting the right role for him. I think like he phased out of Golden State, maybe not because of locker room stuff, because he wasn't hitting and they
couldn't
needed
make a shot.
And they really needed something out of those minutes immediately. Well, when you go to Detroit where the bar is a little bit lower, what they need is someone to basically be the guy hand-holding the younger guy in order to provide foundational just like stability. And so I think that's why someone like him keeps knocking around, because like you almost phase out of needing him, but he is so valuable for so many teams specifically that have young guys like Cade.
But think about that line you're trying to walk with guys like him. And again, like I think Campaign is another instructive example here where you need someone who is confident enough in what they do to come in guns a-blazing when the situation calls for it, but not so overconfident that when you play them 2 minutes or you bench them, it's a huge issue and it becomes like a problem for your team. Like it's a really difficult balance to strike with some of these guys. And that's why it usually happens to be more veteran types who fill it. Because early in your career, you're gunning for a contract. Like you're trying to prove yourself in a different way. These guys are trying to win and they're trying to fill a role and they're trying to figure out how they can contribute to this team. I'm not saying there's never ego involved, but the ego kind of shows itself a little bit differently.
Campaign, just back from the dead. I guess we have to take this seriously
every
now?
other season with this guy.
He's had huge moments for them this season, though, where they just desperately needed a Campaign type. And sure enough, they turned to him on the bench. The spotlight comes to Cam, and it's his night. I don't even know how it works, but it keeps working.
He's definitely more reliable than Deuce McBride at this point, who's gone through a bit of a journey over the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I thought the Mitchell Robinson minutes were pretty good. They gave him a little bit of a different look. He definitely, like his physicality,
he had an
impact
impact
to the game. So there's still more here to play there. I just want to go back to OG just briefly because the come up for OG, kind of almost supplanting Bridges as the third guy on this team, has been a little bit surprising to me. I think we all assumed OG would settle into the same role he's kind of always been, is like havoc wreaker defensively, and then he'll just get his own offensively just to kind of almost mollify him in order for him to just sit in the corner and take his shots. But like it almost feels like he called his shot by wanting to do more in Toronto, and everyone was like, okay.
Yeah.
He's doing more in New York, and it almost feels like he's completely recalibrated things. Yeah.
His jump shot is as reliable as it's ever been. I'm not going to lie. I was always skeptical that he could ever become this kind of shooter. Like you just can't leave him all alone. Like he's a dangerous shooter now, like, which is just crazy to say, especially when we first started watching this guy in Toronto. Like I never thought we would get to this day. And, you know, his drive game has gotten better and he's good at the ducking stuff and he's good in the dunker spot. Like he's rounded off his game quite nicely, but at the same time, like, bro, you get paid $20 more million than Mikal Bridges does. So, like, yeah, I'm not gonna, pat the guy on his ass and give him a gold star.
I think we're just glad that he got here, Yeah,
no, for sure.
We talk all the time about the Jonathan Kuminga types who think themselves to be something they are not. And for a while, OG has never been Jonathan Kuminga, but he thought he was more than a straight line driver and a 3-point shooter, and he was right. You can run an OG and an Obi pick and roll, and you're not going to embarrass yourself. And better than that, you're going to survive some of these stretches when Brunson's on the bench or when he's out with injury, as we saw over the last couple months, because of his ability to do that.
Do we know if Suni Lee or Anne Hathaway were at the game today?
We don't know for sure. Maybe both.
Okay.
I think Anne Hathaway was. I was also told
us. Nice.
You saw her at the game, though. I know she was at some kind of public event recently, but I don't know if it was at MSG.
Well,
I saw her.
Josh Hart said that they need Suni Lee and Anne Hathaway at every game because OG seems to play better when attractive celebrity women are, sitting courtside at the Garden.
Jim Dolan, open your wallet.
Let's go.
This is a fixable problem.
Let's go.
I think this just shows you don't have to have graduated from Villanova to succeed on the New York Knicks. And in fact, like, it turns out maybe that isn't the key to success unless you're Jalen Brunson, because it isn't going well for anybody else.
I also want to say shout out to Karl Towns, who I thought when Brunson was struggling in the first half, he had a bunch of like really tough shot making, like off balance runners,
creating by itself. Yep.
It wasn't
their
the
offense
threes either.
Yeah, their offense was not in rhythm, and they desperately needed points to sort of like hang around in this game and keep competitive. And he was the vehicle for doing that that as much as OG was.
But I still got to dock him points for using his Barry White voice in the post-game interview.
Did he? I didn't even
Yeah,
catch it.
he did the heavy bass in his voice thing. I was like, bro,
I told you with the Pistons, like, it's going to bring it out of him even more.
All right, last one on the board here. Pacers beating the Bucks. We were talking on our group chat before the game. The Pacers showed up in these yes sirs shirts.
Yeah, can
Sirs.
you spell that out?
Yes, I hope, comma. We'll see if
Yes.
the grammar played out. And then sirs was apostrophe CERS, which, I'm not a Pacers like fan per se, but that's the type of corniness that's going to get me back in.
Yeah, I like it.
Although I think I didn't see what the Bucks slogan was, but they might have defaulted to something along the lines of, man, we're doing our best out here. We're trying as hard as possible because they worked their way back into this game, but good Lord, did they look just outclassed.
Question on that front. Were they trying their best?
Some of
were
them
were the non-Giannis
Kuzma,
Bucks?
I
Kyle
gotta
Kuzma
say,
was trying.
Yeah,
I gotta say, the Kuzma, the Kuzma of the last 10 days. Jesus, good God Almighty! Does he not listen to the Bill Simmons podcast? I put my neck on the line for this kid, and he was just horrific. At one point, I looked up when I finally looked at the box score.
Yeah.
For the Bucks game, they were 2 for 16 from 3. 2 for their first 16, bro.
It was tough. Yeah. Who could have possibly seen this coming regarding Kyle Kuzma, though?
Just to put a bow on this, Kuzma had a trillion, which is he played 22 minutes. He did not produce anything but, I believe, 2 fouls.
A 22 trillion. That's Tony Snellian, to say the least. Like, we're in rarefied air here.
Tony Snellian.
So this was the 6th trillion in playoff history.
Oh, God.
And frankly, Taurean Prince wasn't that much better.
Yeah.
They did find something a little bit late where it was Giannis plus the bench guys. Gave him a little bit more of a pop. I would assume they'd go to that unless Dame comes back miraculously in game 2. We still don't know the status of this as we're recording this Saturday night. So there's like some silver linings there, Rob, but overall there's just a lot of blood on this box score here.
Well, there's a lot of blood because it was a comprehensive beatdown from a Pacers team that is the better, more complete team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that it's that much more complicated than that. And not having Dame exacerbates all of these problems, right? Like, the things that the Pacers do well, especially on defense, they will close out to you on 3 and they'll take away your easy threes and they will bust ass back in transition. They're going to take away all the easy points on the table. And if you take the easy points away from the Bucks, you are left with this. Giannis being Giannis, more or less unstoppable, like cannot contain that guy. I thought the combination of Pascal and Miles Turner and switches and Aaron Nesmith here and designated X Factor Jarris Wallace did their damnedest to contain Giannis.
Jarris Wallace?
Jarris Walker.
Sorry,
Jarris Walker. You're not even getting your guy's name right.
I'm a broken man. I'm sorry. Jarris Walker. I apologize to Jarris Walker. Who I thought actually came in and did his honorary, like, filled the Ben Shepherd minutes, with in an admirable way.
Okay.
But all of which is to say, this is what Giannis is going to be in this series. Like, you're not going to stop him from getting to the rim. You're not going to stop him from getting to the line. But if the Bucks are this predictable otherwise, as they often are, especially when Dame isn't out there, this is what it looks like. It looks like a Taurean Prince stands still 0 for night, a Kyle Kuzma 0 for, like, you just have to play better. If you're Kyle Kuzma, like, that's an important adjustment that we have to crank up the dial on Kyle Kuzma doing things. They just don't have a lot of options once you take away the low-hanging fruit. The
Kevin
Bucks
Porter
really rely on that
Jr.
stuff.
It's just
Stop.
Did Dame have more of an impact on this game by standing up to Halliburton and getting a tech than Kuzma did, playing 22 minutes and doing nothing?
Yes.
Dame and Halliburton have a thing that goes back to
I love it.
Last season's NBA in-season tournament.
Mm-hmm. It's been kind of a one-sided thing, I gotta say.
Halliburton is going to chirp. That's just what he does, no matter what. And I'm looking forward to some overly physical fouls at the cup. I'm ready for game 2. I hope Dame comes back. I hope he's healthy and winded enough to make some kind of impact. Because if he's not coming back, they're getting swept, guys.
Yeah. You could even
They're
see
getting
like
swept.
quarter to quarter, the Pacers were already figuring out, oh, this is exactly how much we can cheat off of these other guys to muck up things with Giannis. And I thought Andrew Nembhard in particular was just like flying in from the weak side, blowing up plays left and right. They're just going to get better at that
soul
stuff.
Of the team.
He is absolutely the heart and soul of the team. They're going to get better and better at that so long as Dame doesn't play.
I think Halliburton feels confident enough to chirp when he knows that he has Andrew Nembhard on his side, covering his ass in every possible way, because I think he might be the actual star guard of this team.
Stop.
No. I'm putting a little too much mustard on it, but no, I think we've now had enough of a sample to suggest that Nembhard is a crucial aspect of providing the balance that this team has found since the Siakam trade. It's not just Siakam, who was also very good in this game.
Awesome.
Just Nembhard just makes so many defensive plays, like jumping passing lanes and like poking his hand in there and getting everything started there. Plus the balance on offense, where he didn't really have like a standout game, but he just does enough in order to round out this team in a way that they managed to be successful now for a season and a half.
He was also just turning the like borderline kind of fast break possessions into actual fast breaks. Like he would just push it harder and then body through Brook Lopez and then finish with a layup. Like it's crazy stuff from Andrew Nembhard. But I want to zero in on Pascal for a second, because I love watching Pascal Siakam play, in particular in the playoffs. He has such an awesome whatever it takes kind of game. Like you need a pick and roll, he can play any side of it. If you need to dig up a loose ball, he's going to be there. If you need someone to like work in the mid-range and hit a turnaround jumper, he's your guy. And the Pacers need that because Tyrese Halliburton is in some cases not those things, right? Like he is not a definitive one-on-one player. It's not his skill set. And so having someone like Pascal to fall back on is so important for Indiana and really is what gives them the lifeblood in terms of their half-court offense. Like when the system doesn't work, when Halliburton's movement and shooting don't work, Pascal's your guy or Nembhard's your guy. And their ability to kind of toggle between them, I think, is what makes this team so effective.
What do you think, Waz? Basically Dame or bust at this point?
Pretty much. I don't know how. And I think I might have probably picked the Pacers to win this series anyway. Obviously a longer series. But if Dame misses the next game, it's going to be 2-0. And now we're expecting these guys to win 4 out of 5 games against this Pacers team. I don't see how you could reasonably come to that conclusion.
No.
I hate to do the game one jump out of the window. Oh, this is over, like kind of thing. But from what I watched today, the Bucks can't beat this team unless they have their other all-star on the floor.
It just can't be this stale. I think, whether Dame plays or not, I think Doc needs to seriously look at bringing Taurean Prince off the bench and putting, I would say, AJ Green in the starting lineup if you can. The reason those like Giannis and bench guy lineups worked as well as they did was they were a little more random and they were a little less stale. And some of that is the difference between Taurean Prince standstill shooter versus AJ Green movement shooter. And he was the only guy who could consistently get off threes against this Pacers defense. And so if you can tap into some of that in the starting group with Giannis, maybe you have something going. I think you're going to need Dame to make it matter regardless, but you got to start somewhere.
I think the good thing that they have going for them is that all of these guys are all around the same level, which is unfortunately replacement level, but you can cycle through things a little bit more quickly. So you're right. You can't be as precious about benching Kuzma even or Prince just to get some of these guys in the mix there.
I think Kuzma's got to be there because you need someone to play better than they did, and he at least can do that. Like you can expect that he will play better than a 22
He's going to play
trillion.
better than what he did today, but It has to be way better.
I mean, he literally cannot play worse than he played today. He did not contribute anything.
I don't even know that he got cardio. Like he didn't even get his steps in out there. It just wasn't a good Kyle Kuzma game.
All right. Why don't we wrap it there? Because everyone has a full day of playoff basketball to get to tomorrow on Sunday. Also Easter, so happy Easter to all those who...
Easter. Yeah. He is risen.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma will be risen again.
I hope so. For the Bucks' sake, we hope so. Thank you to Isaiah Blakely for staying up late with us. We'll be back on Wednesday night going into Thursday, so check us out then. We will talk to you then. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.